Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Alton Podcast. It's been quite a while. I was on vacation back in Indiana for about a week, and then before that, I've just had a lot of interviews and stuff going on, so it's been kind of hard to balance the schedule
Yeah.
the last couple weeks. How's it been, Colton?
It's been good. It's been interesting not recording a podcast for 2 weeks because honestly, my whole daily schedule revolves around the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's been super easy going and low key felt empty like the past 2 weeks.
Well, we're back.
We're
And
back
we're going to be
at
here
it.
the whole week.
The whole week, including Christmas Day, Wednesday the 25th.
Yeah, and honestly, guys, we're not sure what we're going to do for Christmas Day yet. We want to do something holiday-ish, but we have no clue what that's going to be yet.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments. What do you want to hear about?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
It'll help. I promise.
Yeah.
So, the major news for the week, past
yes.
2 weeks,
Oh, yeah.
well, week,
Yes.
is the impeachment of
The impeachment
Donald Trump.
of Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States of America.
Yeah, and
Insane.
it's crazy. A lot of people didn't think it was going to happen. Regardless of political preference or who you voted for, this is a pretty big deal.
Oh, yeah.
But I think personally it shows something more than just impeachment.
100%.
These two votes, Article 1, abuse of power, and Article 2, obstruction of Congress. Abuse of power was 230 to 197.
Okay.
And then obstruction of Congress was 229 to 198. According to an article I have from CNN here.
Okay.
And yay was completely Democratic. And nay was completely Republican minus 2 Democrats.
Okay.
So this shows a party vote. This doesn't show a legitimate vote.
Right.
So, what do you think, Colton?
There's a reason why I'm a centralist, Austin. And it's for this very reason. I refuse to join a political party. Even though I might sway closer to one than the other, I still refuse to officially give myself the label because of how the party as a whole, does their certain things. It's simply a peer pressure thing. Well, maybe not peer pressure, but it's it's a bandwagon thing.
Yeah, absolutely. They're obligated to the party they're contracted with. So, I'm sure Republicans, as wrong as it is, they were worried that if they voted yay, that they were going to potentially lose their job in the next year, or, have some kind of other pressure while Trump was still in office. And the ones that voted nay in Democrats, which I have two that I found, Colin Peterson and Jefferson Drew, they both voted nay
Got it.
on both articles. And I would not be surprised if those two Democrats did not have a seat in the House next year. Or next year election.
Very interesting scenario. Interesting thought.
Yeah, and that's awful.
Yeah, of course.
It's terrible, because this is not a legitimate vote. At least in my personal opinion.
Right. I mean, to be fair, any political vote technically hasn't been legitimate since this whole bandwagoning thing became a thing, and to my knowledge, it's always been a bandwagoning thing for as long as I can remember.
I don't think it was quite as bad in the past.
Define past.
When it was first created, it was created with good intentions.
Right.
And I think when it was created, it worked. Now, I don't think it works.
Yeah.
Because society has changed into a way of, money's too important and jobs are too important, and they can't risk one or the other. They can't compromise the right choice or what they believe and then what they should do.
And then on top of that, we have media has turned into online media. So now everybody has access to the internet these days. Let's be realistic.
Absolutely.
So, naturally the swaying is easier to do because you get to show more people your side.
Exactly. And, so you got, in these votes, 3 did not vote 3 just said, I'm not going to do it. 1 voted present, which I believe means a neutral vote. Nothing happens to that person.
Yeah. Sounds about
and
right.
I think 2 of them are Republican not voting, and 1 was a Democrat not voting. So these numbers are identical, except for 1 more Democrat voted for Republican on obstruction of Congress. And it's crazy because it didn't sway. So when this moves to the Senate in a couple months, or a couple weeks, sorry.
Yeah.
That's a Senate controlled by Republicans. He's not going to be kicked out of office if the votes stay like this.
Definitely not.
And I think they're going to stay like this because that's the trend. You vote your party. You don't vote for what's right. You vote your party.
Exactly.
And that's horrible.
Right, of course, yeah. It's horrible because, if you really think about it, if you're just voting for your party, you're technically not voting for what's right for the people or even the ethical standpoint. Religion aside and stuff, obviously. There are certain things that require ethical thought, and, some things just are decided for you, really, depending on what way you sway.
Exactly. And, we put these people in the House and in the Senate to have their opinions. That's why they were hired for the spots they're in. But if they can't stray from their party, they don't have their own opinions.
Right.
Again, this could be a legitimate vote. This could be a completely fair that all Democrats did think it and all Republicans didn't think it. I find that very, very hard to believe.
Yeah, it's not, but...
But let's just say, devil's advocate, maybe it was fair.
Okay.
Maybe it was just. But at the end of the day, if Democrats know that this is how the voting was going to happen because they knew they controlled House, so they knew they could stop him from running a second time. If you think like that, then you start to wonder, okay, what's all true? What's actually happening? What's going on?
Exactly.
I'm not saying he didn't deserve to be impeached. I don't agree with what he's been doing. But strictly in a voting standpoint, if you have a House like this, you can pull your weight around.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
You can force somebody's hand, and that's not the way our government should work.
Yeah. And the exact same thing is going to happen in the Senate.
Exactly.
And it really comes down to, because let's be realistic, he's not going to be removed from office simply because the Republican Party controls the Senate. So it makes you think, did the Democrats really do all this just to possibly, just that little sliver of hope of getting him out of office through the Senate? Like, do you honestly think that they were going to get past the Senate?
No.
So
they did this to get him to not be able to run a second term.
Oh, interesting.
If a president gets impeached, he can't run. They knew they had the House. They knew that if the House voted and it came to that, he would not win and he could not run again.
So is that a stipulation in the running
100%.
process?
Well, no, I think you cannot be an impeached president and run.
Oh.
You cannot.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Honestly, it makes complete sense now that you mention it.
So they, again, they did have justifications that, call this hearing to action.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he is a just man.
I can agree.
Any means of the terms. But looking at the numbers, looking at who voted where in this list on CNN here, it's hard to think that the Democratic Party didn't just say, hey, if we do this and this goes far enough, he can't run again. He won't be in office next term.
Yeah. And if that is the stipulation, then I'm not going to say they won election 2020, but they at least got probably the front runner out of it.
Yeah, and it's honestly though, it's funny because they did, abuse of power, obstruction of Congress, and truly, if that is the case, and that is why they did this entire farce, then that's unconstitutional in potentially a higher standpoint.
Right.
100%. But there's no way to prove it.
Right. Because exactly. I mean, it's it's a sad reality, honestly, that our government is run this way, and like you said, there's really no way of stopping it.
Yeah, as long as we're based on a party-based system, there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. And as we've seen in all the elections prior, the independent parties, they never make it. They don't have the funding, they don't have the influence, they don't have the media coverage.
Right.
When it comes to presidential elections, it's always Democrat, Republican. It's never been any different.
Right. And I've actually been seeing some posts on social media recently, really with the impeachment, that there should be third, fourth, fifth parties running, but it's funny because there already is. And there's, like you said, their own coverage is so low that honestly, I don't think people know they exist.
Yep. It's funny because last election term, I think, and again, this is going back about 3-4 years now, but I want to say the independent party got the most ever votes they've ever obtained, and I think it was like 6%.
Really?
6%.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I personally know one outspoken person that voted for one of those third parties. I don't remember which one, but it was the first time I ever heard someone vote for a third party.
100%. I don't know anybody that does at all. You know, my family is mixed. I got a couple Democratic members, and I got a couple Republican members.
Yeah.
I am neither.
Yeah. Hashtag centralism for the win.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny, too, because I got my Florida license a little bit ago. And one of the questions they asked you, are you Democratic or Republican?
What?
They just forefront asked you that.
Why?
Because they want to know your political party system, like they want to know your vote. Because that's how you get your registration card.
What?
To vote. Yeah.
But that can sway every 4 years.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, neither.
And then what did they say?
And they're like, well, do you want to you want to register to vote? And I said, well, yeah. And they said, well, what's your party? And I said, independent. And I'm like, I could do that, right? And she looked at me kind of funny and said, well, yeah. I said, okay.
Then write it down.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, that scenario alone just goes to show you literally how brainwashed people are to sway one way. That's insane.
Yep. And, you know, people in my family, when I went to vote with them, they just were voted down the line Republican. I said, you don't know who those people are.
It's true.
And they just went, well, I'm Republican. I'm voting Republican. And I said, okay, I'm not, but okay. If I don't know about the people, if I don't know about the seat or the person that's going in that seat, I don't vote for them.
Yeah. I mean,
I just keep my vote out of it. It's an uneducated vote, and that's worse than anything else you can do.
That's fair. And to be honest, I fell into that category. And looking back on it, I really wish I didn't do it. So during the 2016 election, I only looked into the primaries, obviously, the presidential and the vice presidential elections, right? So I voted for those, and then I voted Republican for both, by the way, for the record. And then because I voted Republican, I did the rest Republican, you know, the senators and whoever else is in there. And looking back, I really wish I didn't do that. Because like you just said, I didn't know anything about them. So I was blindly voting for just the sway vote because of the first two. And, you know, also for the record, I'm a centralist, and it just so happened that during that election, I swayed more Republican than Democrat. Simple as that.
Yeah, and, you know, for the record, I voted Republican, too. I only voted presidential. I didn't vote anything else.
Yeah.
But I voted it, too, and it's because that running was so strange. 2016.
It was interesting, I'll tell you that.
There wasn't a good choice anywhere. And yes, I'm a firm believer that every vote counts, and that I think the only way independents ever going to win is if people stop voting for them.
Right.
But I knew that wasn't going to be the year, and I didn't bother.
Yeah.
You know, my goal at that election was not to let Hillary take office.
Yeah, fair enough.
It was, I didn't trust her, and that was personal, but I don't trust people like that.
Yeah. And it was interesting because the election was in 2016. That was also my second, technically first and second year in college because,
Mm-hmm.
the election really starts like a year before the election. So I was there for the second half of 2015 and all of 2016. And, I knew people were outspoken about their political views, but I didn't realize how outspoken such the younger, I guess, generation was. The 18 to 24 range of people age wise, and
Absolutely.
it was just super interesting to see all these sides and all these people outside literally protesting against other groups. It was insane, but it was
Mm-hmm.
super interesting to see because especially the demographics in the groups, because I went to a predominantly, I would say, African American university simply
Mm-hmm.
because of the geographical location. And it's just super interesting to see how these stereotypes are true.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
it sucks to see because it shouldn't be that way.
it's based on society norms,
Exactly.
and it's awful that we've kind of been, I mean, essentially herded into a category.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
100%.
I am Caucasian,
Mm-hmm.
therefore, I grew up in the North.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, if I was more Illinois side, it may be Democratic, but because I was in Indiana, pro-gun,
Right.
X, Y, and Z,
Right.
Republican.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the way they kind of herd us in.
Yeah.
For my next semester,
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking a government class because I put it off so long because I hate government.
Okay.
And it's going to be a very interesting course. It starts January 15th. And
Oh,
the president
interesting.
just got impeached. We're coming up on the next elections. I have a strong feeling a lot of this stuff is going to be based off what just recently happened.
100%.
Uh,
Especially
and-
because it's happening the same year as the election running is gonna really start,
Mhm.
going down. Dude, you picked the perfect time to take a government class.
No kidding. So the question becomes, though,
Yeah.
there's a problem.
Mm.
And I think maybe some of us listening can maybe agree that we have an issue with how our system is currently ran.
Okay.
How do we fix it?
Yeah. I mean, if you're asking me, it really just comes down to people voicing their independent voices more and blasting that shit all over social media. That's
Yeah.
honestly really the only way it's gonna be fixed is if the people voting, the voice of the people, is heard. It's that simple.
You know, I think it has to be a little bit stronger. Maybe.
Mm.
I would say the only way to truly resolve issues like this
Mm-hmm.
is to remove the labels,
Ooh.
to abolish the system.
Ooh. Too bad that'll never happen. Hate to break it to you.
It never will.
Yeah.
But if it did,
Mm-hmm.
then their obligations to their seat are purely that of the seat.
Yeah. I mean,
It is the opinion that they have there.
right.
The same thing with the office or every other place that's affected by this political party system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
And
mean-
that would go a long way.
Right. Right. And as interesting as it would be to see that, let's just say they do take away the labels, then society's just gonna make their own labels again. Okay, let's take it a step further. Society's just gonna keep the current labels.
Yes.
They're just
for a long time.
right. It's just that the government themselves would just not show the labels or colors or whatever.
So, honestly, okay, so the late generation, the boomers,
Mm-hmm.
they've already settled in. This is what they know.
Mm-hmm.
This is how they're going to do it.
Right.
Our generation,
Mm-hmm.
we're going into that generation. We're starting to get to the age where we can make a difference. We can change a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't push for it,
Mm-hmm.
for our generation to not know about it,
Mm-hmm.
then it's going to keep the cycle.
100%.
So if we can push for it and get change, then it won't affect us. There'll still be hidden labels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But by the time our kids are around, or our kids have kids and they're around, it will no longer be present.
Right.
It would be officially abolished.
Yeah. And I have a feeling that things are going to change. I don't want to say in the way of like non-bandwagon-ish, type of ways, but there are a lot of people our age around the world that are, well, specifically in the U.S., I should say, are, they're focused on activism. I guess that's the correct term to use here.
Okay.
And these people are going out there. They're really, firm and happy on what they're talking about, trying to, work on here. And they're actually out there trying to do stuff. And I personally have not seen a lot of older people doing that. I see a lot of younger people doing it these days, and that alone shows that there's going to be some change. I don't know if it's the change we're looking for. It's probably not, because obviously these people grow up in households and around certain people and in certain schools, whether public or private. And I mean, there's obviously a lot of factors that play into your political decision, but I do think there's going to be some change, is what I'm trying to say. I just don't know how much. I guess we'll see in the next coming years.
Yeah, and I would have to agree with you. There's a lot more activism out there, 100%.
Yeah.
It bugs me to a degree. Not to say it's bad. I think it's fantastic. Activism, change on a political front, that's opinionated. That's always going to be there.
100%.
I feel like a lot of activism movements at this time for our generation is based off of pure Google research and not true education. And that's not the way we should be activizing, if that's a correct word.
Yeah, you're right.
But we need that freedom, we need that right. But we have to be careful not to mix certain things with opinion, and then certain things need to be based off of that pure opinion.
Right.
And politics needs that pure opinion.
Exactly.
There is a political science degree, but I don't think there's actually a true science in politics.
No, definitely not.
I think it's more of an advanced communications degree to network and to properly public speak and how to uphold yourself in the eyes of the populace.
Right.
I don't think that's truly a science.
No. It's really common sense at a certain point, and then plus, obviously, the opinions.
Yes, but our current president / impeached president didn't really have that common sense in certain areas.
I mean, you're right. It's that simple.
Yeah. So a lot of change is going to happen, and I think our generation is definitely going to be the one pulling that change. It's a matter of how soon we can make that change.
Yeah, when and how.
And then the next generation has to grow to understand that change, but then make their own choice if they think it should stay.
Right.
We can't get back into this policy where it's how it is, so it's how it stays.
Right. And
we can't develop then.
Right. And for everybody listening, we really encourage you to comment on the YouTube video or send us tweets, or hop in the Discord, everything at Alton Podcast. We really want to hear your guys' opinion on topics like this, especially if you live in the U.S.
Or even if you don't.
Yeah, and even if you don't, we would love to hear that outsider's perspective on all of this crazy stuff going on. It's always crazy when it comes to U.S. politics. But like I said, we would really like to hear your guys' opinion on this. I mean, do you guys agree with us? Do you guys disagree with us? What do you guys want to see? What do you guys not want to see? Do you think the impeachment was viable? Do you think he's going to get through Senate? I mean, there's a lot of variables here that we talked about, and we would love to hear your guys' thoughts on it.
Absolutely. And I have pen pals throughout the world. Australia, Spain, Canada. I have one in England. I mean, I try to keep talking to people.
Yeah.
Because that helps you get different insights. Because honestly, I think they know more about our culture and our government than we do as American citizens.
I mean, yeah. It's kind of the same thing as being, like, a quote-unquote therapist between two people. You notice more things from the sidelines than you do as a hard-headed, opinionated person in the scenario.
Absolutely. And it's important to get rid of that, too, that hard-headed opinions.
Mm-hmm.
That it can't change, it must be this way. And, again, that goes to some activism movements that we have today.
Exactly.
It's some of them may be 100% valid.
Mm-hmm.
They could be full force, they could be true. I may not be educated enough to know that yet.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is I'm getting educated to know that.
Right.
And I'm not basing my opinions off of what I see on the internet.
Right. Exactly.
And then you see those opinions, and some people become headstrong.
Mm-hmm.
They go, this is what I read, this is how it must be, it can't be wrong.
Right.
And that's bad.
Oh, yeah. 100%. And, when it comes to any topic, it's bad. I mean, we're just not talking about U.S. politics here. Just in general, you shouldn't think and approach anything like that.
Exactly. We're put in a position with minds that can grow and expand.
Mm-hmm.
We need to allow our minds to do that and not focus our heart in any specific direction.
Right.
It's not about being right or wrong. It's about doing what's better for the society at hand.
Right. And especially when society is ever-changing, then your mentalities just naturally are going to sway back and forth anyway.
Absolutely. And the new people you hang out with might change your mind.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, I can attest to that 100%. Especially with college, just sitting with these people I don't know during speech class, during the election. Holy, dude. These people, so outspoken. It was insane. Actually, I'm going to say a little story here.
I like stories.
During speech class in college, it was a debate speech week, okay? We were in groups of 3. One of us had to be the opposing side, 2 of us had to be the other opposing side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it was during the election time. So, we could choose our own topics, but everybody decided to choose, like, harder topics to make it more interesting. So my group, we chose abortion, okay?
Okay.
It was, oof. And I was the pro-life side versus the other 2 was the pro-choice side. And I'm not going to get into the specifics, but let me tell you, these rebuttals back and forth, absolutely incredible. Like, I probably learned more about abortion in that 10 minutes than I have in the many years before I even wrote my notes on abortion for that speech.
Yep.
Insane. It was crazy, but it was also very eye-opening to hear like these other personal sides, because sometimes you only hear the vast majority. You don't really hear specific scenarios, you know what I'm saying?
100%, man.
So once you start hearing those specific scenarios, it starts to hit you a little deeper, and then that little bit of deeper can sway your decision entirely.
Absolutely. And those are some of the big, that's one of the forefront of our activist protests today. And that's a topic that I'm nervous, that somebody might say, hey, you guys should do a podcast on this.
Oof.
And don't get me wrong, I'd love to, but it's such a touchy subject, and it's such a highly opinionated based subject.
Yeah.
That it's a really tough one to touch upon.
Yeah. But don't let Austin sway your opinion. We'll make it happen. So
I'll do it.
Throw it in the comments, on the Twitter, in the Discord, everything at Alton Podcast. It's going to be great.
Yeah, any activist protest you guys want to talk about or have us talk about, throw it in the comments. Anti-vax, the abortion system right now, There's one for removal of meat and cattle, and
I never heard of that one. That's interesting.
I have a friend on Facebook. She is a pro. Oh,
Is this like
God,
a vegan thing, vegetarian
it's
type
like,
of thing?
Yeah, kinda.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Good God, I should do more research on this one because I'm very non-versed in it.
Yeah, same, honestly.
But she pretty much protests the life of animals, really.
Yeah.
Pro-animal rights.
Right.
That's probably what the best description for it is.
Yeah.
And I'm okay. We can do topics about all that. It's just it's gonna be certain ones there are definitely more opinion-based. And certain parts are very factual based.
Right. I mean, let's be honest. Politics is really half ethics and religion, if we really want to be technical here.
Yes.
So, I mean, and those two things, ethics and religion, are obviously highly 100% opinionated based on your religion or personal ethics. It's that simple.
I never even thought about it being religion-based until you said that. And now that you said that, I am...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It brings it to a whole new level.
Okay. I don't even have a response to that.
I think I just broke Austin on the spot. Okay. That's funny. How did you not know that?
Maybe I just wanted to think that way.
Because naturally, all ethics fall under your religion.
But it shouldn't.
But should it? I don't know.
No.
Maybe another podcast.
Your ethics should be what you feel, what's ethical in society, not what's ethical based on the... No.
See, this is a very interesting topic. Okay. We won't get too far into it because it's... it's trust me, this can be its own thing. This can be its own thing. But yeah, like we were saying earlier, we would love to hear what you guys think about all of this. Even take a broader picture about the whole ethics, religion, politics as, a generic scenario versus a specific scenario. Or even talk to us about the specific scenarios. How deep can they get? Can it persuade your ethics? Can it even persuade your religion? It's crazy what politics can do to your mental state. Absolutely insane.
I'm just at a loss, guys. I'm sad.
Okay. Well.
But this was a fantastic podcast.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Very good podcast.
I really hope to hear some opinions. Like Colton was saying, we need this feedback. And this feedback is part of it. Understanding what you guys think. Mm-hmm. Do you think the party system should still be around?
Right.
Do you think it's working fantastically? Do you think this vote was perfectly fair?
Right.
I don't know. That's important things for us to know. And I would love to learn. Mm-hmm. Always here to do that. Right. I got 10 more years of living ahead of me, so I'm going to keep doing it. And we'll see you in the next podcast.
Yeah. And before we officially leave, everybody, I just want to remind everybody that we are on all major streaming platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, and a couple more. You can find them all at altonpodcast.com.
See you next time, guys.